Okay, I'm going to do a couple problems on Skill 3. Remember we had 4 topics: exponents, absolute value, simplifying square roots, and finally prime factorization. So let's start off with this exponent rules. And if you know your rules, these become pretty easy on the ACT test. You just look at your rules and see which one applies. So that, again, that's why you have to know your rules. If you have multiply, you add. If you divide, you subtract. And if you have a power to a power, you multiply the powers. Absolute value. Absolute value, remember everything is positive. So if you have an absolute value that's positive, you just keep it positive. An absolute value that's negative, change it to positive. And then if you have an absolute value that has some variables in there for some reason, how do you do it? You just always make it positive. So the first 2 examples on exponents and absolute value, I went through those pretty quickly, but those will be quick ACT questions. The simplifying radicals are a little bit harder. So let me kind of take you through a couple of these as far as simplifying square roots. First off, it's helpful to know your square roots. When you see a square root problem, use your calculator. So see if the square root of 49 is even. And what I mean by even is that it comes out with no decimals. So if you punch out the square root of 49, you get 7 and you're done. If you punch out the square root of 75, you'll see that you have some decimal answer. And on the ACT test, what happens is you won't see any decimal answers. You'll see some more radicals. And that's how we're going to simplify radicals. So in the previous example, I think I gave you 75. So you want to think of numbers that multiply to be 75 and use what we call a perfect square. So it might be helpful on your notes to write out the perfect squares. What are they? 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared. And the more you know of these, just right off your head, the easier these simplifying problems will be. So how many of these should you know? Probably at least up to 100. And why would you do that? Because when I simplify, if you know how to simplify square root of 75, the square root of 25 is 5, and we'd get 5 square roots of 3. So steps here are what? You look at your number, punch if you want to first, and if you see it's a decimal, that tells you you have to break it up into 2 different square roots. What numbers should you choose? You want to choose a number that's in this perfect square idea. So 63 is 9 times 7. And why did I choose 9? Because the square root of 9 is exactly 3. And that's how you simplify what we call radicals. Anytime that you have a factor of 100, always choose 100 as your number. Again, why would we choose 100 when we're breaking this up? Because the square root of 100 is 10, and we'll get 10 square roots of 5. So again, once you start thinking this way, these aren't too bad, but if you've never seen these before, that's how you break those up. The next couple problems is I just want to show you how to use your calculator when using exponents on your calculator. If you're using a TI-83 or 84, again, I'll just point you to this. If we're asked to simplify exponents, then we just punch. So take out your calculator, 4 squared, and then to take a power on the calculator, it's the power button, 0, and you can just punch these out. And again, on the ACT question, it's important that you punch it correctly, but the power button, if we see a problem like this, the fastest, easiest, quickest way to do a problem is just to punch. So let me encourage you, when you see an exponent problem, and you might, then just punch it out and look for your answer on the multiple choice. That's the fastest, quickest, easiest way that you want to do these. You don't have to worry about rules. If the numbers come in as exponents, are numbers, then again, let me encourage you to use your calculator. Okay. On the previous video, we talked about prime factorization, and I've set the example of 42 here. Prime means numbers that only are divisible by 1 in itself, and factorization means that we're multiplying. Okay, so again, think of this as a tree, and 42, think of two numbers that multiply to be 42, and your rule is you're going to keep on breaking these down until you have prime numbers only. So that's all we do for that example. 96. What numbers can you think of that will go into 96? Well, again, don't spend a lot of time, but you know that 96 is even. So quick divide it by 2. So 2 goes into 96 48 times. And then just keep on breaking these up until you have prime numbers only. So 48, what numbers can you think of to go into 48? You might think of 6 and 8, neither of which are prime, so keep breaking these up. So we have a 2 and a 3 here. We have a 2 and a 4 here. Oh, but I want to keep breaking these up because this 4 is 2 times 2. Now everything is prime. So what do we have? We have a 2 and a 2 and a 3 and a 2. Oh, but I kept on breaking this up, and a 2 and a 2. So you might see the prime factorization is all of these 2's. And how many 2's do you have? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2's. So we write that 2 to the 5th times. So we've taken care of all of the 2's, and we're left with a 3. And that is how you do prime factorization. So again, hit stop, play, rewind. If you need to look at any of these examples before you go to the Skill Master practice, ask me questions if the video is not clear.